Welcome, everyone, to the Race Anywhere Porsche Cup Series powered by Race Anywhere Sim Racing 3D and Go for the Gap. My name is DJ Clark, and I am joined here in the booth by Austin Belke as we get ready to take on round 4 of this series. It's another series of sprint races tonight, and we are over stateside at the historic Watkins Glen circuit. And Austin, we have seen this track play host to just about every kind of car you can imagine. But with these Porsche 911 GT3 Cup cars, what can we expect tonight?
Hey DJ, yeah, I mean, as we've seen the last couple weeks, I expect some phenomenal racing for the entirety of both the races we have here tonight through the shorter sprint and then the a little bit longer short sprint. This is such a fantastic facility going up through the S's. When you go up the hill, the bus stop chicane, what a fantastic spot. And if you're a fan of NASCAR, you wouldn't recognize that part of the track, but we're also running the boot here tonight. Very fun, fast, complex of corners. I think it's going to be an absolute treat to see these guys have to tame this place.
It is going to be a treat indeed, and with drivers out on track right now, winding up the last about 3 minutes of practice. The names at the top of the pro standings, well, it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. That's Michael Janney, Elvis Rankin, and Dino Filippa there, 1, 2, 3. Some of the surprises, though, that we are seeing down through the field, Logan Vajada for the amateurs all the way up in 5th overall, doing a great job to put his name there, as well as in the pro-ams. We're seeing Jeremy Littleton and Jos Garfias with some very good pace, actually outpacing some of the pro drivers. But we watched Dino Filippa there working through that fantastic bus stop section that you talked about, Austin.
Yeah, you can see him right there now. He's going through the carousel. The carousel is such a weird place on this track because it requires so much patience to nail it, because if you get on throttle too early or too late, you're either going to go wide and probably end up wrecking the car, or you're not going to go wide enough because you don't put the power down soon enough. You lose all that time. So it's a very, very hard corner. I'd say definitely one of the hardest to get right, and that's another part there. The toe of the boot, very, very hard corner because, you know, you're turning right for so long. It's a complete 180-degree corner. The banking helps you, but of course it's kind of off camber and over a hill when you crest it, so it's very hard to figure out exactly where you need to put the power back down to make sure you get a good exit.
Very difficult indeed, but Dino Filippa looking like he's having absolutely no problems there, getting himself around. Little bit of a run wide there coming up out of the boot. Oh, and there he goes into the penultimate corner, having a big 360 moment. Very easy to do there, Austin. That's one of the corners that last, the penultimate and the corner before that, always tricky to get right.
Yeah, they're two 90-degree left and right-hand corners. I mean, usually you just kind of set the car in there, and once you feel like you got it planted, you put your foot down. But again, very, very easy to overdo those two corners, and if you do, you're going to end up having a bad day either from hitting the wall in the front stretch, or if it's the corner before the last one, you're going to go off into the gravel trap. And this track was just recently updated by iRacing, so you can see that gravel trap there. Lots of new signage also around this track.
Yeah, that's a good point, Austin. The update here from iRacing allowing for a lot more of paved runoff here, so some more margin for error for these drivers. And I've got to think that that's going to come into play a little bit. You can run a little bit wider there out of that penultimate corner, and that's going to help people out, as well as some of the places down around the carousel. A little bit more room for error, a little bit more room to run wide and not have it completely ruin your race.
Yeah, for sure, DJ. That's one of the better things, I think. Once they've updated this track, they went down their whole, re-laser scan the whole track again to make sure it was more up to date. There's a lot more runoff area that you can see these guys are going to be able to take advantage of, like you mentioned. It basically just, widens the room for error, and I feel like it's really going to improve the racing as well.
I have to agree with you there wholeheartedly as we watch Michael Janney for the Apex Racing Team working his way around, and that is the number 2 machine. That's Michael Janney right behind him. Don't be surprised when we get into the race if we see something very similar between the two. As I said, the top 3 right now, Janney, Rankin, and Filippa, we have seen those 3 duking it out time in and time out, but the checkered flag waving here for practice. Drivers just kind of finishing up, as it were. The other driver that rounds out the top 5 outside of Logan Vajada was John Bodefer. So that should be some good racing up at the top as we get ready here, and we're ready to bring you the grid. Now, remember, this is inverted off of championship standings for everybody. And there you can see the track details, about 31 degrees Celsius right now out on in the air. It's about 87 degrees Fahrenheit. Track temperature is about 97 degrees Fahrenheit, 53% humidity. But as I said, we will bring you this qualifying order. This is based off of championship inversion. So leading off there, it's going to be James Pierce for Twisted Racing, followed by Harry Wills. Jonathan Ouellette will be in P3, followed by Justin Ream with John Bodefer and Elvis Rankin in 6th. Michael Janney will be in 7th, followed by Dino Filippa in 8th.
Your Pro-Am field starts with Chris Long on the pole, followed by Steven Martinez in 2nd. Lining up 3rd is going to be Andrew Rasmussen with Jay Steffi to his outside. Bruno Alcaraz and Jeremy Littleton line up 5th and 6th. Jos Garfias lines up 7th with Taylor Lane in 8th. John Cooper lines up 9th with Dan Tenorio in 10th. And Dean Timms is going to round out your field.
For the AM lineup, it's going to be Andrew Hewitt, Travis Kepler, and Drew Neubauer, followed by Don Hunter with Daniel Floria and Michael Kulaga behind them. Gary Brown will be in P7, followed by Eric Kulaga with Logan Vada and Casey Metzger in 10th. 11th in class will be Errol Yerksoy, and Jason Bridges rounds out the field, having been in the lead of those amateur standings. Well, Austin, looking at this track, looking at what we've got some good overtaking opportunities. We've also got some good areas for trickery. What do you think are going to be the key areas that these drivers really have to nail in this opening 20-minute sprint?
Well, I think there's a couple areas you have to nail. There's a couple places you have to nail because there's good passing opportunities. The 2 places I feel like you really have to nail in order to have a pretty decent race overall is the bus stop chicane down the backstretch. We're going to see this field of pro drivers get there first, but you're going to see it's a quick right, then left complex to get out of there. And basically, you know, the guys that do it really well, the guys that you can go through there without getting off tracks or slow downs, but they also maximize, you know, how much they're cutting the track and using those little runoff areas of those rumble strips. You can take a lot more of it than you think, but there's also a bump, at least there was on the last version of this. I might have scanned in where there's an update, but there's a certain bump where if you hit it just right, it upsets the rear end of the car, and it basically just, you know, hucks it around, so you pretty much spin out only a quarter of the way through the bus stop. So that's really tricky. The second one is going to be the carousel. Like I said, it's very, very hard to get that thing right. And passing opportunity, I feel like, you know, you get one going into the turn 1 and then also into the toe of the boot there, just because such a large braking zone, a huge passing opportunity, very tight corner overall.
Yeah, very tight quarter. It's going to be very, very difficult to get everything right. As we watch here, Pierce leading the field in that number 23 machine. Remember, the inverted order here means that the faster drivers will be starting in the back. That means a wicked charge for them coming up through the field. And then the second heat race, the second sprint race rather tonight, that is going to be the inversion of the finishing order here. So we've got sort of a double inversion in store for tonight. It'll be very, very tricky to get right. Drivers are going to have to be careful and make sure they get everything good.
Yeah, that's right, DJ. So kind of, you know, how hard do you want to push right now? Only 20-minute race. You know, the second one tonight is going to be 45 minutes. So it really depends, you know, if you push really hard now, you get to gain those points. And obviously we know how just important the points are if you're trying to chase down a championship here. But if you don't try as hard, maybe, you know, you're kind of lagging back in the pack. You get to start farther up in the next race. So just, you know, a very, very fine edge to play.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very fine edge all the way around. But just waiting here as the drivers work their way out of the toe. Now, as it is the way we've seen it play out several times before, the pros will start, then the pro-ams, then the AMs. These drivers here coming down. This is always a corner that has thrown me off, Austin. The heel of the boot, very tricky to get right. You always seem to want to go slower through there than you actually need to.
Yeah, for sure. Well, part of it is because if you do charge it too hard, you can see right there at the camera angle before you're going downhill. So you have to break your, you know, back your braking point up a little bit. Sometimes you do it too far just because it kind of catches you out. But yeah, I've caught myself going either way too fast or way too slow there multiple times. And this is another tricky corner right here because you can see you kind of crest the hill, so the rear end of the car gets very light as you go over. I've seen a couple IndyCar drivers end up spinning themselves out there. I've done that numerous times here running the boot myself, so very tricky corner as well.
Indeed, and obviously the little bit of added runoff here in this penultimate corner, that's going to help drivers maintain some margin for error as we see James Pierce just weaving back and forth, trying to get those tires up to temperature. 97 degrees out on track right now, 97 degrees Fahrenheit, I should say, but waiting for that iRacing pace car to pull on in. Control of the field will go over to James Pierce. Remember, a little bit of the restart zone here, so he's got an option of when he wants to go. It's not strictly triggered off of the flag, but he's going to go a little bit early as Pierce gets underway with the mega start. Willett able to get a good start along the outside, and that is the 88 of Justin Ream trying to make some hay here early. He's going to be able to get his way up into third as the pros 3 wide in the back between the 3 title contenders that we've seen duking it out time and time again. But we go over to the Pro-Ams.
Pro-Am drivers right now lining up. This is going to be long on pole, as you can see. Waits to put his foot on the loud pedal. Ends up doing that, though. Not as hectic as a start for these Pro-Am drivers as it was for the pro drivers, but they're all going to go almost, only double wide as they go down into turn 1. Not quite the 3 wide we saw before. Now we'll have to turn our attention to the Am drivers. You can see Hunter putting his foot on the loud pedal as well.
Don Hunter getting a very good breakaway, and that's Kulaga and Hewitt going at it side by side down into turn 1. That's going to be a little bit of a wide run there for Hewitt. He may be able to carry some speed. You can normally not pick up an off track when you do that, but he's going to fall back into line behind Kulaga. We are going to jump back up to the battle in the pro field, however, as Ouellette has been able to get out and around. I think there was a big problem there for James Pierce as he has fallen all the way down the order, but Philip Ouellette now continues to lead right now, but John Bodefer hassling him.
Yeah, you can see all these drivers are trying to get through make as many passes as they can as soon as they can, because there's only 20 minutes in this race. These guys are only going to be grouped together for an even shorter period of time before the race is over today.
Exactly, and these are the eyes that we really want to follow. Dino Phillippa, Michael Janney, and Elvis Rankin. Oh, we've got a side-by-side there. Hunter and Metzger. Metzger trying to make some hay as they work their way through the chute. And that is the number 20 off into the wall. That's Daniel Floria.
Yeah, not too often we see mistakes out of Floria there. Obviously, I think he just got a little bit too crossed up going to the braking zone. To see if we can get a replay of that as we go to watch the pro drivers finally completing their first lap as they rocket down the front straightaway into turn 1. Also downhill, very easy to mess up your braking point right here. We are going to get a replay right now. This is going to be Dan Floria. See how in the world he got himself all the way up, 180 degrees into the wall.
We've got to cut back to the live action because we've got a positive hornet's nest coming up right here. This is Dino Phillippa trying to make the move on Justin Ream. Looking a little bit. Ream trying to think about go defensive, just planting that car in the middle of the track, but Phillippa's not going to be denied. Goes side by side through the bus stop, and he's got to back off. Is that going to give an opportunity here to Michael Janney to be able to force his way by? No, he's going to check up as well.
Yeah, bus stops, not really an area you want to be side by side there. Both drivers obviously giving it more than they feel like they have to. You see one driver off in the grass there. That was very tricky situation for him, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that was Justin Ream that is now going to be passed by that train of leaders. Elvis Rankin trying to get by him as of right now as they work their way into the toe, trying to carry some more speed around the outside. That corner is cambered a little bit, so you are able to carry that momentum should you choose to run up there, and it looks like Rankin's able to get by. So that means that those leaders are going to continue to be up there. John Bodefer starting to put a little bit of pressure on Jonathan Ouellette up front. We go back to check out that replay for Floria. Looks like he just carried a little bit too much speed into the corner. The car understeered, and he found that outside wall.
Yeah, the grass certainly doesn't have as much grip as the rest of the concrete there, especially now when the concrete's banked like that. We can see, we're just going to look at this hornet's nest here, like you call it, DJ. These guys are all just, in step with one another, just kind of do whatever the driver does in front of them. You can see the gap between all these cars is only about a half a tenth at most. Usually, it's between 2/10, 1/10. You see 8/10 of a tenth. 800, sorry, right there for those drivers. You can see going too wide into turn 1. Huge passing opportunity right there, but you need to make sure you're single file before you go up the hill, because it's going to slow both you and the guy you're trying to pass down if you go up there double wide.
Well, and that was some good moves there from Dino Phillippa and Michael Janney to be able to work their way forward. So they now sit in third and fourth as John Bodefer pokes his nose to the inside of Jonathan Ouellette here, seeing if he can maybe have a run down into the bus stop. It's going to be a battle of the late breakers, and that battle will be won by John Bodefer, who moves himself up into the lead.
Yeah, what a fantastic move there. Really just optimizing, the kind of time you can spend in the bus stop. You can see a couple other drivers putting in some fantastic laps down in the AM category, too. You can see a purple lap from Hunter, Metzger, Vada, and Neubauer all putting in personal best. Whoa, a huge
Oh!
wreck.
That is a massive wreck, and that has massive championship implications. That's Philippa off the track. That is Dino Philippa, one of your championship contenders, off the track. Pierce is towing, it looks like. He was caught up in it. Will's now holding onto the back of the field, but that's going to reset the top 5 here to be Bodefer, Willett, Rankin, Janney, and Ream.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what all went on right there. I believe it was Philippa was tapped in the back of the car to spin himself out. It looks like he was tapped by the number 2 of Michael Janney there, and you can kind of see it just, wreaked havoc on the rest of the field. Very unfortunate for all those drivers. Yeah, just barely a touch by the one driver, the number 2 car, Michael Janney, in the rear end of the 99 of Philippa. You can see it just causes havoc.
Yeah, and it looked like there that Janney tried to avoid that, checked himself up a little bit, and that's what caused Pierce to go off and into the wall. And indeed, here comes Janney down pit lane. We've got another spinner. That's Gary Brown down in the amateurs.
Yeah, it looks like Gary just, got a bit crossed up. You can see even Steven Martinez. That's what I was talking about, folks. You crest that hill, the car gets very light in the rear end, gets extremely loose. You can see a huge car control by him, able to keep control of that and continue to chase down Jas Garfias there.
Yeah, Garfias able to pull his way up into P2 in that Pro-Am field. Long holding on to the lead as of right now. Michael Janney falling down the order as we continue to check in here. This is Taylor Lane, who's trying to close in on Martinez.
Yeah, you can see he's going to get a huge run on the driver in front of him there. It's going to be Garfias because he gets, Martinez, like you said, because he kind of messed up turn 1, went a little bit wide there. Unfortunately, though, for him, not able to take advantage of that because they go up to the S's a lot faster than I'm sure he would have hoped to. But you can see he's going to continue to try to hound him right now. He might try to do the outbreaking maneuver as they go into the bus stop. It looks like Martinez just kind of going to let him have it there.
And this is one of the drivers that we were focusing on very heavily last time out. John Cooper, Daniel Tenorio there in a nice little battle. To Alcaraz leading Tenorio, leading Cooper, leading Littleton. As that looks like Littleton's going to start to poke his nose to the inside of Cooper. Tries to make that outside run around the chute work. He's going to find himself falling back into line. Rasmussen there behind him looking for a little advantage as well.
Yeah, I got to hand it to Jeremy there. He certainly tried to make that pass. Obviously, not where you want to be around the outside through such a long corner like that. But, he had the run. He decided to take it, and I can't really fault him for that one.
No, neither can I, but Rasmussen starting to look a little bit threatening here. This is Dean Timms back in 14th, 9th in class. They all line in. Timms thought about a very late lunge there going into the corner, but backed off of it. They just all run, throw a blanket over these guys.
Well, you can see a lockup there. I believe that was from the first purple and white car we see. I'm not sure who that is. I can't quite read the number, but and now they're even going to force them off into the grass. 2 cars forced off into the grass.
That was the 44 of Alcaraz, and that's Littleton around. Littleton has spun in a big hit into the wall, but that means that up front it is now Tenorio and Cooper in a race by themselves. Let's watch this replay. Little bit of contact there. That was Alcaraz that was off, and then Littleton just carries too much speed through that penultimate corner, spins it around, tries to get it back, and whaps that rear wall.
Yeah, quite the lazy spin as he tried. I think when he was at apex, just a little bit too rearward brake bias, and it spinning the car out. Goes to try to put the power down, and there's just no grip from the rear end of the car. He backed into the fence pretty hard. I assume he's going to need to park that, but we'll see if he can continue on right now. As we look at Michael Janney battling with, I believe that's a car in another class. Obviously, he was a driver that, of course, caused that big kerfluffle in the pro category. So just trying to gain all the time back he can.
Yeah, exactly. Janney, remember, took a pit stop here to come back through. This is Drew Neubauer, who's got some very heavy damage to the front of that Porsche, missing the front hood. A little bit of a lazy spin there. I can't say I'm surprised with all that damage on that Porsche there, but Janney able to get his way up. He rides in 6th. We're going to focus back in on that battle for P5 in the Pro-Am category. That is Daniel Tenorio and Cooper behind him. John Cooper trying to hassle him. Remember, this was all spread out a little bit by Littleton having that incident earlier, but definitely coming alive here still between these two.
Yeah, these guys are still going at it. I'm sure they're both trying to do everything they can right now, but you can see just how spread apart this field is right now as compared to, this exact point on the track one lap ago. You mentioned Jeremy Littleton just kind of spinning the car out there in the second to last corner, third to last corner, excuse me. So you can obviously, it's kind of, done a little bit to the racing to spread this field up, but I'm sure nobody really has a big problem with that, given the fact it's always a little bit easier to kind of find your rhythm when it's just you on track instead of having a guy, inches from your front bumper and inches from your rear bumper.
Oh, and a great move there from John Cooper to try to take the outside away from Tenorio, but Tenorio, wise to it, defends the inside. Cooper's going to try that again, looking for a little bit of a crossover. It's not going to work at the outset of the corner, but he does able to carry more momentum. Now, this is for the battle for P3 in the pro field. This is Jonathan Willett and Justin Ream. Ream just hassling that green number 27.
Yeah, doing everything he can to try and get by him. Obviously, though, we've seen how good a defender Jonathan is, so I wouldn't be too surprised if he makes it, even harder on Mr. Outlet there. Oh, as you can see, John Cooper having to take the shortcut there through the chicane. I believe that's going to be a slowdown, pretty heavy slowdown. I don't know if they still have to stop in that area of the track. If this was, of course, NASCAR, if you do blow the bus stop chicane, you need to come to a complete stop before you complete the rest of your lap. So he might need to do that, or he'll just have to take the slowdown. But smart move from him, much easier to just kind of blow the chicane, take the iRacing slowdown. You can see what a move there from, I believe that's Ream on Outlet there. As you see a car in the wall, I'm not quite sure who that is. I'll get you some more replays of that in just a second.
That was Daniel Floria, a little bit of a slower car just getting out of the way, but an absolutely great heads-up move there from Justin Ream to be able to get by Jonathan Willett. A very, very heads-up move. You normally don't see a pass get made there coming up to that third to last corner, but Ream able to make it work beautifully, and he starts to pull ahead of Willett here, maybe a little bit more top-line speed in that machine. Let's check out the replay. This is Daniel Floria for the Twisted Racing White machine. Oh, that penultimate corner. It's just catching everybody out today, Austin.
Yeah, DJ, I think it's just a lot of these guys have a bit more rear brake dialed into the car, so it's kind of just skirting around on them right there. As you can see, that's going to be John Bodefer, Elvis Rankin, currently battling side by side almost as they head down into the bus stop. You can see just how much these drivers are willing to cut those runoff areas, those rumble strips. There's a lot of time to be gained there.
Yeah, there's a lot of time to be gained, and this is for the battle overall right now. Rankin trying to close in on Bodefer. Remember, I mentioned Bodefer had some pretty good pace in practice, but Rankin was faster. He was second in practice. Bodefer was fourth. So Rankin just trying to apply maximum pressure here. Rankin really the only one of the title contenders that is still alive and kicking here after Philippa and Janny both had that incident early on that forced them well down the order. Looks like Rankin falls back a little bit, but he's going to have a little bit of a look there into the heel of the boot. Nothing doing. He'll back off again. Maybe we'll see a bit of a pickoff here in this third to last corner. Is he going to go for anything? No.
Now, all that look is basically just to make sure you tell the guy in front of you, like, hey, I'm back here if you make a mistake or if you want to let me have it. I'm just trying to find my braking marker to make sure I don't rear end you head into the corner. I'll usually do that. You can see, wow, really close between those two Twisted Racing Porsche teammates. You can see it's actually going to get Harry Wills all crossed up. He's just barely going to bounce that thing off the wall. But, that's just how hard these cars are to stop on a dime, especially even change your direction at the last second.
And some patience here out of Elvis Rankin, not making the move going down into the first corner. I think he is going to just sit behind and hungrily gobble up that draft off the front of John Bodefer. We may see a move here as they come up the S's. We may see that move going down into the bus stop. Should be noted, though, that you can see Rankin's got a little bit of damage to the front of that car. The splitter, little out of line. He's going to take the long way around here. Let's see if that overspeed's going to help Rankin. Rankin's got to be late on the brakes, and he's not able to get it done.
Now, as a driver on the outside, you have to cut across the guy on the inside before you can even enter the bus stop. Very wise move from Rankin there to just kind of back out of it. Obviously, you caught Bodefer by quite a little bit over each and every lap. There's still 7.5 minutes left in this race. You can definitely catch back up to him, especially when he keeps going a little bit wide in all these corners, especially at Apex, DJ. Most of these corners, you want to be right against those rumble strips. It's very hard to put the car exactly where you want it to be with these cars, as we've seen them be on edge all day here today. We've seen temperature be kind of hot right now, so the grip's kind of all over the place, but these guys obviously giving it everything they had. Even though Rankin was a couple tenths of a second behind before, he certainly closed that up to now being inside 0.3 of a second. So I don't imagine that'll be the last time these guys are side by side.
No, I don't imagine it will be either. I think Rankin is very hungry for it, but displaying a lot of patience here. He knows that a non-finish in this race would absolutely scupper any chance he has of taking a massive title advantage. Remember, his two rivals, Jani and Philippa, knocked out here early down the order, well down the order here at this point. We ride on board the nose. That's just some lap traffic up ahead, getting out of the way. I think indeed actually going down the pit lane as Rankin's going to take some good licks from the draft here. He'll be able to close in a little bit. Now it's all down to nailing this corner. He's got to check himself up there a little bit. That'll cost him maybe a half a tenth. There you see Bodefer running a little bit wider. Rankin just looking like he's got that car with a little bit more control.
Yeah, the best thing you want to do going up the hill right here, DJ, is just connect all the corners together. You can nail one corner, but if you mess up the other two, you're going to have a bad time going up the hill. You can see Rankin got up there a lot faster than Bodefer did. He's going to try to go to the outside one more time. Unfortunately, you know, that blocking maneuver to just kind of put your car right in the middle of the straightaway or even off to the right side of it obviously catches Rankin quite a bit off. Usually a driver won't know what to do when he's given the outside of a corner like that, so that's just kind of what you see the check up there for, but I'm sure Rankin's kind of just putting that in his memory banks to say, this is what's going to happen next time, so I just need to try and anticipate that.
Oh, we've got side-by-side up through the S's. This is Steven Martinez, John Cooper, and Bruno Alcaraz. Alcaraz able to pull ahead. Those are teammates there. As Steven Martinez looks like he may be caught out, gave up that inside line. He's got to back off, and indeed, he loses 2 spots to Bruno Alcaraz and John Cooper in the course of so many corners.
Yeah, we saw that earlier in this race too, DJ, where one guy just kind of gets offline in one corner. He's just forced offline to the rest of the corners because especially if guys are packed together like that, they'll just freight train you. We can see, wow, diving for the lead there. It's going to be Elvis Rankin. Not quite able to get it done. Still got to stay side by side as they go through. This is one of the last straightaways, third to last corner heading into this right now. We've seen a lot of drivers spin out right here. Going to go back to single file as they come out of the last turn for this lap and head down the front straightaway.
Indeed, it looked like there that Rankin may have taken a little bit earlier of an apex. He may have to change up his strategy here as he does not seem to be able to get by Bodefer. And indeed, he's going to poke his nose to the inside. Is he going to go for a late braking maneuver? Doesn't really go for it, just tries to force Bodefer off of the apex a little bit, maybe compromise his exit out of the corner. This could be the run that he needs now, Austin.
Yeah, that's exactly right, DJ. You saw him kind of poke his nose down to the inside to say, hey, I don't know if you know it or not, but I'm here. I intend to make a move. You can see he's just going to keep gaining as he goes. You can see that interval on the very left-hand side of your screen. Those orange numbers now inside of 1/10 of a second. Is he finally going to get it done around the outside? No, not quite as they head down into the bus stop.
Just not quite able to seal the deal there, but we've seen him start to poke his nose this way and that, and the crucial thing here is they only have about 3 minutes left to go in this race. I think it will be either 1 or 2 to go at the line for these drivers. There you see it, a very aggressive move. I wondered if that was going to happen. Bodefer left that door open a little bit earlier as they go down into the chute. Now they're going to be side by side, working their way into the toe, banging doors a little bit, and that's going to be Rankin out front.
Yeah, you can see Rankin did everything he could try to do to possibly pinch Bodefer down into that corner. It was able to end up working for him. You could see Bodefer just kind of locked up his brakes, ended up sliding a little bit wide. Rankin's very lucky, actually went wide to avoid getting hit by him. Right now we can see Michael Kalaga, Jason Bridges currently battling side by side as they head down into turn 1 right there. Kalaga obviously able to make the pass, but we're going to see if Bridges can make a comeback at him.
Well, he may be able to. He took a little bit of a wider line through turn 1. That should be able to allow to carry more momentum, but he is very far back here at this point to even think about a move. About 3.5 of a second for Bridges. I'm not sure how well it'll go for him, and indeed, he is not going to be able to get anything done going into the bus stop.
Yeah, I figured if you could get a big enough run out of turn 1 there and possibly keep catching that guy, get the draft on the back straight over there into the bus stop, you might be able to make a move, but he just wasn't close enough. I don't think he was trying that. The crossover there is possible, but it's not very likely. It's incredibly hard to pull off as well, but you can see right now your 3 leaders are going to be Rankin, Long, and Hunter right now in your Pro-Am, and M categories.
And for the record, they are 2 to go here. They cross the line with enough time. Drivers putting down about 130, 140s or so. So I think that is 2 to go for these drivers out on track. Elvis Rankin already pulling out a gap of about 0.7 of a second. Was a little bit longer before they made their way up the S's, but I think the draft helping out John Bodefer a little bit.
Yeah, for sure, DJ. Especially when you're going to have one car punching a hole in the air in front of you for you, it's going to give you a whole lot of time. Obviously, not with too much of these cars, they don't generate a huge amount of downforce or drag. They're kind of just mostly neutral in the air, very aerodynamic cars, these things. They do have a giant rear wing on them, and they certainly perform a lot different without that. As you can see, the side-by-side battle between Cooper and I believe that's Rasmussen right there as they head down into the bus stop.
It was indeed, and that is Cooper able to get by Rasmussen. That has been a move that has been a couple of laps in the works. Cooper doing a very, very good job to be able to get his way forward.
Yeah, you can definitely see who the better passers in this league are. And of course, it's track specific. You know, obviously, you're going to be faster at one track compared to some other drivers than you will be at other tracks. So it's very hard to see and differentiate between the two of them. But obviously, if you like a track or you're much better at a track, it's certainly worth, a tenth or maybe even a half a tenth, depending on where you go to and if you like the track or not. But we're going to right now look at Elvis Rankin, and I believe he's going to take the white flag here, DJ.
He is indeed very close there on time, but that was indeed the white flag for Rankin. He's got the gap up to about 9/10 of a second, just needs to hold out here for a little bit longer over John Bodefer.
Yeah, I've actually tried to do that, try to check up in the last corner before I cross the start-finish line, being the leader in a timed event like this. And unfortunately for you, iRacing knows they can do that interpolation calculation to figure out if you can do 1 or 2 laps. So even if you do check up to say, hold on, I crossed the line after the 20-minute mark and ended, iRacing says, nah, you didn't. We know you lifted. You're going to have to do an extra lap. So kind of frustrating sometimes, but obviously it's something you can try to play with in real life.
Well, and that was actually what happened this past year at the 6 hours of the Glen here for IMSA. I can't remember the prototype driver, but checked himself up. We're going to jump back and check out a replay here. This is Justin Ream going down into the bus stop. Gets that car, big chunk of air, and that car is going to go for a ride.
Yep, that's exactly what I was talking about there, TJ. Yeah, the front of the car sticks and does exactly what you want it to do, but you go through that bump right there. It upsets the rear end of the car. You can see that rear end hop up in the air by at least a good 6 or so inches and just kind of slide out from the rest of the car, and of course that spins him out. Luckily for him, this is the updated version of this track, so obviously a little bit easier to keep going at the end of that, but that bump is still there, folks.
It is indeed, but we watch right now Elvis Rankin. He's got some lap traffic that he has got to negotiate before he can officially take the checkered flag. John Bodefer only about 8/10 of a second behind him. Rankin dives the car through the penultimate corner. Things look good, runs a little bit wide, but he should be clear with that. Brings it out of the final corner here, and now brings it on to the start-finish straight. And Elvis Rankin for the Apex Racing team will take victory in the first sprint race here today. John Bodefer will finish behind him, and it looks like Dino Philippa able to get a very good run to come home in P3 there in class. We focus back, though, on Chris Long, who is in the lead of the Pro-Ams.
Yeah, you can see Chris coming through the last 2 corners of this track, and you can see at home, folks, just how wide he's having to go in each of these corners, try to take as much speed as he can through there. Obviously not pinch the car off and get it to spin out. You can see he's going to win the Pro-Am race tonight.
And he'll be very pleased with that result. There is Taylor Lane and Daniel Tenorio, who are able to round out the podium there for the Pro-Ams. This is Don Hunter for Hunter Racing, the red number 5, as he brings his car out of the final corner with a massive gap over Eero Yuksoi, as he is able to take the car and win in the amateur division.
What a fantastic run by all these guys. You can just see the kind of spread that they have through the rest of these cars. Obviously, from one to the other, putting on some absolute classes today. A master class course. And these, you can see Eero Yuksoi finally able to come home in P2, and then Eero Yuksoi right behind him. Sorry, that was Eero Yuksoi in P2, and then the Galagas behind him.
Yeah, there you go, Eric. And Michael Kulaga now crossing over the line to take P4 in that amateur division. Remember, these finishing orders very, very important because that will determine the second race's starting grid. It will be a reverse grid based off of where you finished. And we will bring you that 45-minute sprint here in a little bit of time. But in the meantime, this is the Race Anywhere Porsche Cup Series powered by Race Anywhere, Sim Racing 3D, and Go for the Gap. We'll go ahead and run you through the final finishing order here for today's race before we get ready for that 45-minute sprint. Taking victory in the pro category, as we said, that was Elvis Rankin. John Bodefer able to come in behind him in second, and Dino Filippa able to recover after that incident to take third. Justin Ream was fourth, followed by Jonathan Willett, with Michael Janney in sixth and Harry Wills in seventh. James Pierce rounds out your pro finishers.
Going on to the Pro-Am category, Chris Long, your winner, followed by Taylor Lane. Daniel Tenorio is going to round out your podium. John Cooper comes home fourth with Yoth Garfias in fifth. Andrew Rasmussen comes home sixth. Bruno Alcaraz finishes seventh. Jay Steffi finishes eighth, followed by Steven Martinez, with Jeremy Littleton rounding out your top 10, and Dean Timms rounds out your Pro-Am field.
And then in the amateur division, it was Don Hunter taking the win, followed by Eric Yuxoy and Eric Kulaga in third place. Michael Kulaga was in fourth, followed by Jason Bridges, with Casey Metzger and Andrew Hewitt in seventh. Logan Bahada came home in eighth, a little bit disappointing run for him there. Daniel Floria was 2 laps down in ninth, followed by Drew Neubauer and Travis Kepler, with Gary Brown bringing up the back of the field. Well, folks, you heard me say it. We have another race in store for you, so don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break, but as soon as we come back, we will have another 45 minutes of action for you here from Watkins Glen.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing. All from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the Race Anywhere Porsche Cup Series, powered by Race Anywhere, Sim Racing 3D, and Go for the Gap. We are in the final moments of the warm-up session here, in between everything, waiting to get going. And it's going to be a 45-minute endurance, or 45-minute sort of endurance sprint race, let's call it, Austin. And that means that we've got to change in things because we're going to have pit stops.
Yeah, that's right, DJ. Obviously, it's quite a bit shorter by a half hour, of course, as to what we're used to, that traditional 1 hour and 15-minute race. It's a little bit more than twice as long as the sprint race we just had. So, yeah, somewhere between an endurance race and a sprint race. I'm not really sure what to call it, but we'll just say a regular race here. 45 minutes coming at you. We can see just now wrapping up practice, Elvis Rankin putting in the fastest time, just about 1/10 clear of his fastest competitor, Michael Janney, followed by James Pierce, going to round out your top three fastest. You can see these drivers putting in some sick drifts as we go ahead and finish up practice.
Indeed, as practice is now officially over and we are ready to go racing here for this second race. And this starting order is an inversion of the finishers in the last race. So starting off in pole position will be Harry Wills, followed by Michael Janney. Jonathan Willett will be in second, followed by Michael Janney in third. Sorry for that. John Bodefer will be fourth, followed by Elvis Rankin, Dino Filippa, Justin Ream, and Harry Wills.
Jeremy Littleton's going to line up first in the Pro-Am category, followed by Steven Martinez and Jay Steffi. Bruno Alcaraz and Andrew Rasmussen line up behind him, with Jos Garfias and John D. Cooper in the row behind those two. Daniel Tenorio and Taylor Lane line up alongside each other, followed by Chris Long, and Dean Timms is going to round out your field.
And that was for the Pro-Am division. And now for the amateur division, it would be Drew Neubauer, followed by Daniel Floria in P2 for them. Michael Kulaga will be third, followed by Casey Metzger, with Logan Vada and Eric Kulaga in sixth. Andrew Hutchinson will be seventh, followed by Gary Brown, with Errol Yorksoy and Don Hunter in 10th. Travis Kepler will be 11th, followed by Jason Bridges, and Andrew Hewitt will be tail end Charlie on the field today. Well, Austin, we've had 20 minutes out on track. What have we learned thus far from these three classes out there?
DJ, I think starting off, I feel like we've learned there's still that bump when you go through the bus stop. When you make that initial right-hand turn, you try to arc it back to the left to complete that corner. There's still that bump there. It upsets the rear of the car. I feel like we've also learned there's a couple more tricky areas than we thought there were originally. Now we know that the carousel is kind of tricky. Also, the entrance to the carousel. We saw a lot of guys getting it a little bit too wide there, going off in the grass, swapping ends of their cars, as well as the third to last corner as well, being very tricky when you crest that hill. I mean, these cars are a complete handful today. I think these guys, even though they obviously put in a lot of practice in these cars, just the altering, the changing conditions that these guys have to face week in and week out, just proving a little bit too treacherous here today.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult to get everything under control, I think, for these drivers. Very difficult indeed. As we watch here, this is Harry Wills leading the field for the Pro Division. He'll have Michael Janney to his inside. That's going to be a very fierce battle. I expect Janney to be able to push his way forward. And really and truly, my driver out of the driver of the day for the pros out of that first field, it was John Bodefer. So look for him to have a good run here.
Yeah, I look for Bodefer to do really well. I think in terms of winning the race today, I think Janney has a lot of the pace. We saw him obviously, kind of trigger that early wreck that involved he and his championship competitor, Dino Filippa. So that definitely kind of took them out of contention. Obviously, though, Filippa able to kind of rally back for, I believe, that podium finish he got in the very last lap to kind of pass, I believe that was Ream there on the very last lap. I can't quite remember. But, yeah, fantastic battles all the way up and down through the field for the entirety of that race as well. So I feel like we're in for an absolute treat.
I think we are indeed, as we see drivers working their way out of the carousel and down into the chute. Now, this is an area where we did see that coming together that really effectively put Janney and Filippa out of contention for the first sprint race. Very, very tricky corner. You've got to be able to carry some good speed in there and be aggressive enough, but if you carry too much, it's a corner that is very easy to pick up some oversteer on.
Yeah, DJ, I think where the two drivers came together there in the last race is just kind of, different strategies to approaching that corner. You can obviously send the car in kind of hard, wait to the very end and just barely get it turned down to make this run down the short chute into the toe of the boot, or you can let off kind of early, arc it in and try to put all the power down and really maximize the straight line speed. I feel like in that race, Philippa kind of did the second one of those, and then Janie did the first where he kind of just hucked the car in there, then get it turned and power on down the straight. So I feel like these guys, obviously, the more you race with one another, the more you kind of realize, what all your different competitors are doing. Try to change what you're doing to kind of match them, or at least then like, hey, this guy's going to check up early, so if I, kind of check up later, maybe I can get to his inside or vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. It presents multiple areas. Where there aren't a lot of multiple areas, well, that is this corner right here, the heel. Really kind of a one-way street through there. Very difficult to get any sort of overtaking done around that area, as well as coming up through here out of the boots, but we get ready here. Field control will go to Harry Wills. Remember the way these guys start off, it's sort of that restart zone. Anywhere between point A and point B, they are able to go at their own accord. So Harry will have control of the field. Michael Janney to his inside, and it will be up to Harry where he wants to get things going, making their way through that tricky penultimate corner. Obviously some more runoff there that we've seen drivers be able to get on, and that's been able to help some drivers stay out of trouble. But at the same time, definitely an area you've got to be very careful about when you get through there. iRacing pace car about ready to pull off here, and indeed, there it goes. It took a minute, but now control of the field goes to Harry Wills, waiting for Wills to get on the loud pedal. The green flag is out, but that is not when these drivers go. Still waiting for Wills to get up to full speed, and there he goes, trying to get a good jump on Michael Janney. Janney's going to slot back into line directly behind him, and we've got three wide between Reem, Bodefer, and Willette going down into turn one. Who's going to end up on the right side of that? It looks like it's going to be Reem, Willette, and Bodefer.
Yeah, obviously 3 wide is not something you want to do as you head down into turn one, but we're going to turn our attention now to the Pro-Am fields. You can see Jeremy Littleton finally puts his foot on the loud pedal. Not a whole lot of waiting for him. You can see all the cars rocketing down into turn one. Not a whole lot of 3 wide action. Like you see these guys, mostly Noah's Ark style, as they head down into turn one. Only 2 wide. We're going to see who's able to get a good jump on the rest of the field. The top 3 drivers right now, all single file. You can see finally some 3 wide. They're going to have to straighten that out before they go up to the S's, before we can turn our attention to the AM category.
In that AM category, Travis Kepler able to get on it in the 16. He's going to get a nice little pullout, and everybody looks like they're relatively going single file. I see a little bit of a side-by-side between Vada and Floria there in the back. Oh, that was Floria taking a very aggressive look at the curbs. That is Daniel there in the 20 machine. As they get up there, he's going to try to make the move around, but we've got to jump back up to the leaders. This is Elvis Rankin trying to push his way forward. Reem and Bodefer also duking it out, and those two are teammates.
Yeah, obviously Elvis Rankin, the winner of our sprint race, 20-minute sprint race. Obviously, like you said, DJ, field is now inverted, so he's going to have all the work to do in this 45-minute race to see if he can try bring home back-to-back victories here today at Watkins Glen International. We're going to see, these guys obviously still 2 wide. This is when you want to pounce and try and gain as many spots as you can while everyone is still packed tightly together. Usually, though, if you can see one guy making a pass, you can obviously, sometimes try to follow him through. The guy he's passing is obviously a little bit flustered, especially in the bus stop down near the carousel. You kind of just follow the guy through, almost like a short track.
Exactly, but the one thing that these guys behind them, specifically Elvis Rankin and them, as we watch James Pierce currently tail end Charlie on the back of this field, that they're going to have to worry about if I'm Elvis Rankin and Dino Filippa, is that I have Reem and Bodefer. Those are Alpine Stars geodesic teammates. We jump back, though, to the battles in the Pro-Am division. That is Josh Garfias in the 44 of Bruno Alcaraz. A little bit of a hip check there, sending Alcaraz out to the outside, but he's going to come back on track, try to hold the inside through the final turn. I think Garfias is going to be able to take it, and indeed, but that's going to be Alcaraz now trying to get up behind in the draft.
Yeah, just barely. Obviously, Alcaraz is going to feel like he was wrong there. Obviously being doored there into the third to last corner, so he's going to come out of there second to last. Excuse me. You can see one car lock out of the brakes. I believe that was Andrew Rasmussen. Very easy to do that. Of course, turn one, very hard braking zone. You got all that speed coming down the front straightaway. We're now going to go back up to the pro category. You can see right now Justin Reem being hounded by Harry Wills here as they go out of the carousel down into the boot.
And Ream was able to get the pass done down on the long backstretch, but Will's trying to fight back around the outside here, going down through the chute. But that's going to allow an opportunity for Ream's teammate, John Bodefer, to maybe have a look on the outside. That's also a look to the inside for Elvis Rankin. They're going to be in a perfect little triangle as they make their way through the toe, trying to see what's going to happen here. I think that's going to be Rankin able to get the position away, and indeed, he's got a nose ahead as they pilot their way down now into the heel. As they go down now, is Rankin going to be able to hold that out? He's going to try to. He's got the advantage.
Yeah, you could see Philip almost try to go there after Outlet to try to see if he could make the position, foul him through. Outlet's going to say, I don't think I want you to do that and get away from me that fast, Mr. Rankin. He's going to try and foul him through. You can see, just like I was saying there, DJ, you know, one guy makes a mistake, he gets passed by another driver. You want to try and force your nose up in there to make sure he gets that call from his spotter. Look at the run. Rankin's going to get, we're now going to hop back into the M category to look at this battle that Jason Bridges currently has going on side by side. You can see one car going off into the grass. I believe that's Gary Brown. He did that last race as well, if you remember. No, that it wasn't Brown. We're now going to go back up to the pro category. There's battles all over the track.
There are in a very late break. Who was that way off? That was Harry Wills way off. That was Harry Wills way off. Dino Philippa actually executing the move that I think Harry Wills wanted to do, a late braking maneuver down into turn 1. So Philippa now into P4. John Bodefer trying to take advantage of the draft as they work their way up the S's and onto the backstretch. Bodefer's got to try to get to the inside here. That's the best way to get a pass done. Going into the bus stop. Looks a little far back now, and there we see Philippa defending. Now we see Bodefer thinking about the move, but not able to get it done.
Yeah, Bodefer was pushing Philip as they went out of turn 1 up the hill into the S chicane. You can see right now they're going through the carousel. You got to be really patient to see when you get on the throttle. Obviously, wheel the car all the way out to the left side before you bring it back down to the right. Have to worry really, really hard about not making sure you put the tires in the grass there. Just kind of arc the car down right here as you head down into the toe of the boot. Very, very hard braking to kind of try to make sure you get the car slowed down. You're going downhill right now. Both those factors affecting you before you go through that long right hand at the toe of the boot. 180-degree turn.
180-degree turn, climbing your way up the hill. Looks like Dino Philippa's been able to pull a little bit of a gap, about 0.3 of a second over John Bodefer. Bodefer just needs to be able to stay in touch with him to get a nice pickup on the draft. Rankin in turn trying to close down on Bodefer's teammate, Justin Ream, right in front of him there. You see all those drivers running nice and wide. The real battle here we expect will be between that, but we've got that battle again shaping up. Houston just able to nose that Porsche in front of Brown, but Brown's going to have it right back.
Wow, you can see Houston able to just kind of say, I can tell you went a little bit too hard through there. Obviously, just kind of does the crossover in the middle of the bus stop. Very, very often you don't see that happen, and the driver is able to pull that off. You can see Justin Ream right now being hounded now by Elvis Rankin again. Elvis Rankin's going to poke his nose down to the inside, try and outbrake his opposition heading to turn 1. Looks like he's there. They both kind of know it. That's going to be Ream going a little bit wide. Obviously, there's Philippa trying to take advantage of that wide maneuver, just like I said, on a short track. One guy makes a mistake, passes another. You want to make sure you can foul that guy. Now as they head up the hill through the S's, now they're going to be going down the back straightaway into the bus stop chicane. Huge, another opportunity to try and outbreak your opponent. We've seen a lot of drivers able to kind of forego that passing right now by just making a little bit of a move down to the inside, the right part of the track as they head now through the bus stop. Clean corners for all these guys. No one making any huge mistakes here as they go on into the carousel.
Well, and now the real work comes here for Rankin and Philippa. They've got to chase down Michael Janney, who leads this race to the tune of about 2.7 seconds as of right now. So that is the real battle, as there you see Bodefer getting by Justin Ream in the background. Not sure if that was a facilitated pass or what exactly that was between the two teammates.
Obviously, we bring that up because sometimes in these races, teammates will kind of communicate with one another, say, hey, I know you're a little bit faster. Why don't you go ahead and trace those drivers down? Right now, we're going to get a replay of that pass. Obviously, if this was not choreographed, that is a textbook pass. I feel like, though, just by, how one driver went out a little bit wide, I feel like it was maybe choreographed, DJ.
Yeah, I have to feel it was a little bit as they defend there. As we jump back to the amateur field, that is Metzger able to get by Kepler in the 16. So the fifth place cars. Ooh, we've got another little battle shaping up. This is Eric Kulaga as he tries to hold on. That's the 63 trying to get by him as well. That's the 63 of Arayuksoy, able to not get it done, and Kulaga's going to be able to hold on to that P7.
Yeah, DJ, two of the most talented guys in this class. Obviously, the best passers as well. They're obviously going to be starting in the back of the field for making their way all the way up to the front in that 20-minute sprint. I like for them to be both contending for the win of this as the time goes on. Right now, they're both riding along in 7th and 8th place, respectively, as we now jump into this Pro-Am battle between Jay Steffi and Jas Garfias right now for 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on this as well, and also behind them, Bruno Alcaraz and John Cooper holding close to them as well, but Steffi trying to get a good run down the start-finish straight here on Yas Garfias. Jeremy Littleton ahead of them has been able to pull out a gap of about 1 second as they break heavily down into turn one. This Pro-Am division really all still to play for.
Yeah, you can see all these drivers are still kind of stacked together, much like how the Pro category was at the beginning of this race. You can see all taking their different lines as they go up through the hill. Now we're going to jump back to the Pro category as Justin Ream is being hounded right now by James Pierce. You can see Pierce and that twisted racing Porsche right behind him. You can see he's just kind of looking for that crossover move to kind of see if he enters, you know, a little bit wider, if he can kind of arc the car back down, try and gain more of that straight line speed, but it looks like he'll just be able to hold off Mr. Pierce for the time being.
Yeah, be able to hold him off at the time being, but we've got a great little battle down for P11 overall. This is Jay Steffi trying to hold off Bruno Alcaraz and John Cooper. There you can see, as we look back, that's the 95 of Harry Wills trying to chase down Jonathan Willett. Remember, Wills had that big lockup going down into turn one, and he's on a bit of recovery drive. Here's a nice little battle, though. This is that same one we've been watching. Eric Kulaga, oh, contact there between the two. Ariel Yuksoy, I think, may have caught a little bit of Kulaga's car.
I don't know if that was contact there. It obviously seemed very weird to see those cars. I don't know if they made contact. We'll have to get a replay of that. I'm going to try to look for one myself here to see if there was any contact or not. But obviously, those are the two cleanest guys, the most talented, like I said. Now we're going to go back to the battle for 7th place overall between Owlett and Wills. Wills obviously running in the top 3 cars before he made that late braking move, trying to go down into turn one, ended up locking up the brakes. You can see just how much time that ended up costing him. Right now, he's running about 10 seconds behind the lead. He was only about 3 or 4 when that event happened.
Yeah, he was. He's able to get the move done there. Here, we're going to go check out that replay. Was there contact? That's hard to tell.
I don't think there was. I don't see any damage on either of those cars. I'm looking at the back of Uriksoy's car right now. I feel like Uriksoy just got his car a little bit kind of crossed up, trying to make sure he cleared Kulaga going into that corner. Obviously, you know, 2 of the cleanest drivers there. Lots of talent in there, too, as well. So you're just trying to make sure you can get that pass done around the outside, especially when you're doing that. Last thing you want to do is spin yourself out across the other guy's nose when you do that kind of maneuver going into the bus stop.
And eagle-eyed viewers may notice that Yas Garfias has fallen down the Pro-Am category. He had a big bobble coming through the boot a couple of laps ago. He's now able to hold off John Cooper behind him, but Jay Steffi and Bruno Alcaraz were able to get ahead. Oh, but that's contact!
Jay Steffi ended up having to cut the last part of the bus stop chicane there, so he had to slow down, probably give up a lot of time, try to do that actually on the apex of the corner down by the rumble strips, ended up making contact with, I believe that's going to be Long right there. Very interested to see if that was a slowdown there, and the contact was maybe because one driver just didn't know the other one had to check up or not. We're going to get a replay of that right here. You're going to see that's Jay Steffi just being hit right there. You can see John Cooper right now, the 3rd driver in that line.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like Steffi just cut down a little bit on the carousel potentially, but we are side by side. This is Dean Timms and Daniel Tenorio duking it out for P10 in the amateur division, and it looks like Tenorio is going to be able to, Timms rather, is going to be able to hold that out.
Yeah, Tim's obviously just trying to hold on to that place. We're going to right now look at Gary Brown right here as number 49, FTR Esports Porsche. You can see these 3 drivers locked into quite a battle here. He's obviously being sandwiched by those 2 twisted racing Porsches of Uriksoy and Houston.
Indeed, he is. Brown just trying to claw his way back up. He's currently 10th in class, or 9th in class right now. You can see as they work their way down into the heel. Looks like he's losing a little bit of time. Houston may be able to get a little bit of a charge on him here if he can nail these last 3 corners.
Right
Looks
now
like we had an issue, with Harry Wills here. Let's go ahead and check this out. Big lockup, both him and Willett into the wall, going down into the chute. And that's going to be a tow for Harry Wills.
Oh, more contact actually between Bruno Alcaraz and Yas Garfias. It's going to be more contact behind him between Yas and his teammate, Mr. Cooper, there as they go through the bus stop. Now we're hearing drivers right now talk to one another. You can see contact there as they try to go through the bus stop. Obviously not a spot where you want to be 2 cars wide, 2 cars trying to fit in a spot where only 1 car should go. Obviously there's going to be contact. I don't believe either driver left that incident with a whole lot of damage, but Bruno Alcaraz able to pull a decent-sized lead on the rest of these drivers.
Oh, and this is getting a little bit spicy there in the back. That's Rasmussen around. Rasmussen has been turned. I believe that was Steffi that may have gotten into the back of him.
Oh, man, that was tough right there. I'll have to get a replay to see exactly what happened. No ill intent, I'm sure, but that's just kind of what happens when you're racing that hard. And all these cars are as close together as they have. I'm not sure if that's a new paint for Andrew Rasmussen, but a fantastic-looking Valvoline paint. And, yeah, I think that's just a bit of a difference between the spotter saying car inside versus no car inside. And I feel like both those drivers felt like they were entitled to that spot of the corner, basically right next to those rumble strips and absolutely nailing that apex. You can just see, a bit of miscommunication there. I'm sure some net code might have been involved as well.
We check back in here on the battle for P1 overall. Michael Janney continues to lead. Elvis Rankin, though, very, very close ahead of Dino Filippo. Filippo really trying to close in the best that he can, and he has kept that gap to about a consistent 0.3 of a second. Austin, I'm getting the sense here that Dino is just waiting for the opportune moment to strike.
I feel like you're right, DJ. Usually if one guy is pushing as hard as he can, you'll kind of see that gap grow and decrease as he tries to catch the guy in front of him. It feels like maybe he's just trying to save some fuel or, maybe see if there's any chinks in the armor of Elvis Rankin, but they're still trying to do their best to chase down Michael Janney. But, these are the fastest 3 guys at this track right now for this session, so I don't feel like they're going to make a whole lot of inroads. You can see currently Janney's been pulling away from Rankin and Philippa last couple, sectors they go through. You can see that lead increasing, only just barely, but still increasing right now as we're going to look at Ariel Yuriksoy currently trying to chase down Drew Neubauer as they go up through the S's, down the back straightaway into the bus stop. There's going to be some effect from the draft. These guys obviously both trying to chase down Kulaga in front of them. And look at the speed that Gary Brown is able to get as they go through that complex of corners of the bus stop chicane. You can see that's going to be Neubauer just a little bit wider than I'm sure he'd like to be through there. Obviously, going to be able to hold on to his speed. Ariel Yuriksoy, though, kind of just stalking right now. We're going to jump up to the battle between Chris Long, and it looks like Jay Steffi behind him. These are both the, another 2 drivers. You can see the 3 drivers ahead of them. That's going to be Alcaraz, Garvius, and Cooper. Garvius obviously still sandwiched between those 2 Turnburn Moto teammates. Not a whole lot of damage to any of these cars, even though we've seen them be collected. Get quite a lot of damage between the 2 of them, obviously being hit. Obviously, not hard enough to take any real damage. Going to jump back to the battle between Yuriksoy and Neubauer. Currently, so many battles. Are actually a pass for what would be a P3 in the Pro-Am category. It's going to be Jas Garvias right now getting around Bruno Alcaraz. John Cooper obviously looking for any room he can as they head up through the S's down the back straight. We're still locked into that. This is the battle I was just talking about. Jas Garvias obviously just able to barely get by Alcaraz as with a late braking maneuver down into turn 1. You can see even John Cooper says, I don't know if I want to follow you right now anyways, buddy. He's obviously going to look to try and pull a move around the outside. Thinks better of it. All 3 of these guys going single file down into the bus stop chicane. You can see now they go into the carousel. Go ahead, DJ.
And a big check up there from Bruno Alcaraz as he came out of the bus stop. I think that cost him a couple of tenths on this potential battle with Jas Garvias. Now, Garvias has just got to try to be a little bit more defensive here. And Austin, when you're running like this 1-2 with your teammate, what can you do with somebody that you're in communication with to try to get on by somebody like Garvias?
Honestly, I think the only thing you can do when you're both behind right now is just kind of time. Maybe when you can get a push-up off the corner, maybe a little bit of a bump draft maneuver, unless you kind of do want to do a 2-pronged attack where you basically say, look, he can't block us both at once, so I guess we'll both just try pass him as we go down to the back straightaway, and maybe one of us gets by. Maybe one guy tries to go on the left and one guy tries to go on the right. I'm not too sure, DJ.
Well, we'll have to see as they separate out a little bit there. Andrew Houston looking like he had a bit of a wide run, losing touch with the battle between Drew Neubauer and Ariel Yuriksoy right ahead of them. This is Ariel as he tries to work his way forward, but we've got to jump back up to the leaders here because this is Dino Filippo with a very good run on Michael Janney. However, Filippo looks like he's going to back off, and it is worth noting that they have been slowly but surely eating into that lead from Michael Janney. It is now down to about 1.8 seconds, and we expect the draft efficacy here to be around a second. That's where you're going to start to feel the toe. So about 8 more tenths of a second here for Rankin, and he'll start to be able to pull up behind Janney all the better.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, these guys just kind of lockstep between the two of them. When I did mention it was about 2.1 seconds, that was about a lap and a half ago. So obviously, these guys making inroads will have to keep an eye on that battle, that interval at least. Right now, we're going to look back at the battle between Uruk Soy, Drew Newbarrow. They try to run down Michael Kulaga just ahead of them. This battle's been going on for a couple laps now. We're going to look at the battle just behind them. This is going to be Gary Brown trying to make a late breaking move on Andrew Hewson there. Just able to get to his inside. We'll see if either driver lifts as they go through the S's chicane here up the hill. Obviously, contact between the two cars. That's going to force Hewson very wide. Hard contact for him. I don't believe that might have messed up his toe, DJ.
Yeah, looks like there's some pretty heavy damage to the left side of that car, and there could be a little bit of a crabbing issue. Let's go ahead and check that out. You said it earlier, Austin. You really can't go too wide through the S's in the number 40 Twisted Racing Blue machine of Andrew Hewson, finding that out the hard way.
Yeah, obviously not what you want to see for either of those drivers. Definitely not the intent, but I think, that's the case. Gary having, a couple inches to his right, and obviously, Andrew thinking he was going to take up, of course, all the road he can there. And, when you're going too wide through there in these cars, not a whole lot of downforce in these machines. These guys are having to absolutely coax these cars up the hill right there. Not a whole lot of downforce. These cars, obviously, gearing, you can see these drivers getting sideways up all the time coming off of these corners. So you can see right now we're kind of looking at Bruno Alcaraz. This battle's been going on for a long time as well. You can see right now it's going to be Jay Steffi trying to put his nose down the inside of Bruno Alcaraz, try out break him going into turn one. Looks like he's going to be able to at least get his car there. We'll see if he can try pull off the rest of the move there. Obviously, one of the areas you can be so even with the guy because, you have the advantage going through turn one, but then the guy that was on the outside is still on the outside. He's able to put the power down, open up the wheel just a little bit more, get a better run going down into the chicanes when you go up the hill. You can see that, one of the cases Bruno is able to hold on to that spot.
Well, and the problem there that developed was that Chris Long able to get by him as well. But we're going to check back in on that battle. The gap now down to about 1.7 seconds. Dino Filippa continuing to just hold behind there as they come upon some lap traffic. These are the leaders here overall in the pro category. And we are just about ready to tick on 20 minutes down in this session, about 25 minutes to go. This is a battle. This is Taylor Lane in the Pro-Am category in that yellow machine and the 32, that's the 17 behind him of Tenorio and Lane just finding that outside wall. That is a big thwap, and that is effectively going to end Lane's run out here today, I have to imagine.
Yeah, tough break for him. Absolutely hate to see that for a competitor, much less even someone who's competing directly against you. Right now, we're going to look at Elvis Rankin. You can see he's obviously still able to hold that lead over Dino Filippa, now 0.4 of a second. Obviously, they haven't made too many inroads into the overall lead that Michael Janey has, still around 1.8 seconds. I'm not sure if that's, maybe a little bit of a lift and coast, maybe just the tires currently not where they want, but you can see all three of these drivers very even on pace.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing really in between them as we watch Kepler here pulling away a little bit from Kulaga, at least trying to. Dino Floria there. Oh, here's a good run for Dino Filippa. Is he going to have a look going down into the chute here? That big, long downhill left-hander as there they go around. It looks like he's not going to try to press his advantage. Now, Austin, the thing we haven't really talked about a whole lot here is the pit stops. What is Dino going to be getting by staying this close behind in the draft? Is he going to be able to get an advantage, maybe save a little bit of fuel?
I certainly think he can, DJ. Obviously, that overspeed you get from the draft, you'll be able to lift and coast and hold on to much more of that speed than you would normally if you were the only car out there. Having to punch that hole in the air yourself if you were the only car. So maybe this is him trying to make sure that he can overcut the car ahead of him to try to make sure that even if Rankin goes into the pits, he can still stay out one lap later. Maybe he's only faster than him by a tenth or two, but of course, if the gap is only 1/10 or two, then it's either a dead heat or he has the position, and that could chase down Michael Janey all by himself. The reason that's important is because you can obviously undercut a guy, but that only works if you're behind him, and he's not going to pit when you do too. You always run the risk of waiting, but if you can try to overcut that guy with absolute certainty you can make it, there's nothing he can do to make sure he can save another lap if he tries this late into the run. You can see Justin Ream there. What a masterclass of a move around the inside of Jonathan Ouellette. Jonathan obviously tries to keep his car in there. Not quite able to do it, though. Going to have to tuck it behind, see if he can try and make another move in a lap or two.
So actually James Pierce there that was able to get that move done on Ream, it looked like. And so Ream falling back down the order, but we check back here. Rankin and Philippa very, very close behind one another. Dino Philippa just trying to see. I've got to believe that he is definitely trying to save a little bit of that fuel, trying to see what he can do. The gap, however, up to Michael Janney. Janney has finally responded here, putting in some personal best times, able to go just a couple hundredths faster on the last lap, and that in turn has allowed him to grow the gap back over to 2 whole seconds. You can also see there John Bodiford just kind of lurking in the background, waiting to see if a mistake is made here from Rankin or Philippa and see if there is any room for him to attack.
Yeah, it's a good thing you bring that up, DJ, because, you know, I'm even wondering myself, is Janney maybe just running out of time? Is he trying to conserve his tires? And maybe it could be that Rankin just doesn't have the kind of pace to stay up there and be just as consistent as his competitors lap in and lap out. Maybe Dino Philippa is kind of getting a little bit, anxious about getting this pass done. As you can see, we're going to cut to this battle here in the Pro-Am category that's still going on between Long, Alcaraz, and Steffi. You can see Bruno obviously not having the greatest of days. You can see he has more damage on the left side of his car right now. Going to try to tuck to the inside of Long as they head down the straightaway into the toe of the boot. Not quite able to get there and get it done. He's going to try to arc the car a little bit wide, then cut the car back down, maximize the speed as they go down the straightaway into the heel of the boot. Not quite able to get there close enough to be able to make a move to his inside, but still just stalking.
Still just stalking behind, starts to get a little bit of a pull here as they go down into the heel. That was a lockup from one of those cars. They were so close to each other, I couldn't exactly tell which one, but that is going to allow for Jay Steffi to try to get a move done on the 44. Here he goes around the outside. He's not going to have it, and he's going to fall back and lose a whole bucket of time, as now Alcaraz is going to try to close in behind Long the best that he can. They start to separate out here a little bit, but this is James Pierce and Justin Ream. Remember, Ream got passed on that last lap. Ream now trying to get the move, potentially. No, not going to get it done there. He's going to stay single file through the bus stop.
DJ, I'm not too sure if that was Bruno maybe locking up the brakes, getting into Long just ahead of him. Obviously, Steffi tried to make that move like he could, but there's just no grip on the outside of that corner. As we jump back to this battle in the Pro category, it's going to be Dino Philippa just still stalking Elvis Rankin. These two obviously getting gapped still by Michael Janney. That gap now 2.3, 2.4 seconds now compared to the 2.1 that it was. We talked about it last.
Well, and what's crucial about that is all the while that Janney has been able to do that with lapped traffic. He just got by Andrew Houston and still able to be going faster than these two drivers. So I think that Rankin definitely needs to pick up the pace here. And I just rode on board with Dino Philippa. Didn't sound like he was doing a whole lot of lifting and coasting, a whole lot of fuel saving. So this may be his absolute pace here, or he may just be holding back a little bit and doesn't want to go on full attack mode until we get into the final stages of this race.
Yeah, it could be too. Just the setup of these cars, maybe it suits some drivers more so than it suits others. Obviously, you can try short shift too to save fuel, or maybe just, kind of knows where his fuel number is. He doesn't feel like he needs to save anymore. I'd be interested to see when all these guys are going to pit, or if they need to. We saw at Sebring, these drivers, did have to pit versus one effect, but some races they don't end up having to.
Well, we will have to see that indeed as we now watch Gary Brown trying to chase down Drew Neubauer right ahead of him. This is down in that amateur category for 7th in class. Very close there. It looked like Brown was able to carry some more speed around the outside, but not close enough to really pull anything off. Oh, Philippa, we've got to go to Dino Philippa as Philippa has been able to get by.
Dino Philippa, what a masterclass of move. We'll have to see if we can try to get a replay of that as they went up the hill. You can see, yeah, that's going to be Dino just barely able to get to the inside of Elvis Rankin. A huge run for him up to the S's. I'm not sure if he maybe got his competitor loose there in Rankin, or if Rankin maybe just had a slip up, or just, obviously didn't get up through the corners as fast as he could have. Of note, Jay Steffi was trying to hunt down Bruno Alcaraz before they went to the pits. Jay ended up having a self-spin, exiting the boot. He's now about 10 seconds behind Bruno, so obviously might cost him a spot or two, but I feel like the biggest point of news there, DJ, is that Philippa crucially able to get by Rankin. We'll have to see if he can do anything to the gap now that they have the Janney. Janney able to extend that gap by another 0.2 seconds to the last time we spoke about it.
Yeah, indeed, but we'll have to see how that plays out here. It does look like the Dino has been able to pull away just a smidge from Elvis Rankin. That gap about 0.3 of a second. Yeah, and crucially here, Bruno Alcaraz up into the pits, as is Jay Steffi. Steffi obviously dealing with some damage on that, but those are the first drivers that we've seen take a scheduled stop. Actually, I take that back. John Cooper made a stop on the previous lap, so in 16th place, he is currently your highest driver to have come down pit lane. Whoa, Dino Philippa is really pushing there, Austin. You saw that car get all kinds of sideways. We're going to check back here, though. Justin Ream wants a little bit of redemption. That's James Pierce right ahead of him. He's going to maybe try for a move. No, he's going to wait for the draft.
Going to wait for the draft a little bit. Crucially, though, try to outbrake his opponent to try and gain as much space as he can going up into the hill here. You can see through the S's. I don't think he's going to be able to gain as much time as he wants there blowing that first corner like that. Obviously, not too bad. I feel like he's just trying to maximize his straightaway speed for the second half of the uphill chicane there. We're going to go back to look at Dino Philippa. Unfortunately for these two drivers, it looks like Michael Janney able to even gap his lead more so. Now it's at 2.9 seconds. That's another about 0.3 of a second compared to when we spoke about it last when it was only at 2.6. So I feel like Janney's got this one in the bag based on raw pace alone, but we'll have to see if any of these drivers have been kind of holding something back all race.
Well, we'll have to see if they're holding something back, and we have seen stranger things happen when drivers come down pit lane. Mistakes can always be made down there, and it can be absolutely disastrous if it doesn't fall the right way. No drivers on this lap look like they have taken pit stops as of right now. We're still waiting for some more drivers to make that call. Dino Philippa there, able to pull away from Elvis Rankin, but not fully able to close in on Michael Janney in front of him as he makes his way through the heel of the boot. We jump back here. This is Justin Ream and that battle he has been having with James Pierce.
Yeah, Pierce obviously able to remain in control of that top 5 position right now. The last car in the top 5. Obviously, Ream wants it. Wow, handful of opposite lock there as they go out of the boot. Obviously, we've talked about it all day here, DJ. All day in the broadcast, the car gets very, very light when you go through there and all the way just at the rear end of the car. Once you crest that hill, the rear end just wants to step out. You can see a lot of drivers currently battling with that right now as we take a look at John Cooper in 6th place in the Pro-Am. Oh, got to get it real sideways, almost. Ooh, not quite able to get the car stopped. I don't think he hit it too badly, though. Rear end, the wing at least looks intact. I don't feel like he took a whole lot of damage to that rear fascia. We'll have to see if that affects his speed later. He was passed, though, just now by Bruno Alcaraz and Gary Brown as well. I'm not sure if Gary Brown has taken his pit stop yet, but I believe he has. So that's obviously going to do a huge upset in the Pro-Am field right now as we look back still at this battle between James Pierce and Justin Ream.
Ream looking very aggressive, pokes his nose to the inside, going through the bus stop, but decides not to make the move there. Discretion being the better part of valor for the geodesic driver. Right on board here with Ream. You can see him and just how much wheel he is having to put into that car to make sure it points the right way. Watch his hands here as he comes down. We've got some more drivers coming into pit lane. It looks like Steven Martinez coming in, it looks like, but side by side. Is this the move for Ream? He's going to have to try to carry some more momentum. He's not going to be able to. Maybe looking for a little bit more of a crossover, but not able to get it done.
Yeah, DJ, there's just not enough grip in the front end of these cars to try and get it rotated down the middle of the corner, kind of like what you'll see on a short track where you kind of enter high, cut low, use that straightaway speed because you started to straighten your car out sooner than the guy ahead of you. Not able to make it work, though, for Justin Ream there. As we look at Andrew Hewson, I believe we're going to see him swap ends of the car right here in a couple seconds. And no, I think he might have had a component failure on his sim rig there because the car just went straight up the track. I don't know if that was a brake pedal failure or what.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. This is Jay Steffi. Steffi has already been down pit lane. Looks like a wide car. Oh, that was the 47 directly in front of him. That was Drew Neubauer. Just driver error taking Jay Steffi and having a hard hit there.
Yeah, obviously, if you're Jay Steffi, that wasn't in your control, but we heard that Jay Steffi obviously kind of swapped ends of his own car a couple laps previous before. Jay's not a guy that makes a whole lot of mistakes, so I'm sure he's going to be beating himself up about making that one mistake that obviously put him back there with Neubauer to, of course, make a mistake. And, of course, you know, no harm, no foul there, just kind of getting a little bit sideways as you go into that corner. So very, you know, hard to take on the chin for those drivers, but I'm sure, you know, obviously a lot of these guys in this league are friends, even though they're competitors.
Yeah, indeed. And we've had a couple of pitters here come down. I see Justin Ream coming down pit lane, John Bodefer coming down pit lane, Jeremy Littleton, Jonathan Olent, and Jos Garfius, the latest to opt to come down pit lane. I'm also seeing Dan Tenorio come down as well. Ream continues his battle with James Pierce. Ooh, that was a little bit of a wider late apex from James Pierce as he tries to hold off that hard-charging 88 machine.
Yeah, I feel like if you're Ream right now, you either want to pit a little bit earlier or pit one lap later. I wouldn't be too surprised if both these drivers come into the pits right now. Obviously, if you're Ream, you kind of want to pit earlier to make sure you can make that pass if you believe you are faster on raw pace alone, unless you're just kind of happy following the driver ahead of you. Of note, Andrew Houston and Jay Steffi both currently leaving the session, manually disconnecting. Unfortunately, both their races over for tonight as we still ride on board with Justin Ream. You can see how the front end of his car just stalking right now James Pierce. James obviously able to get by him a couple laps ago. They've been having a very intense battle for probably the last about 10 minutes, TJ.
And indeed, and our leaders are down pit lane. Janney, Philippa, and Rankin all opting to make the dive for the pits. We keep an eye here on Pierce and Ream. Both of them decide to come down as well. So I have to imagine here, Austin, that this is the end of the pit cycle.
Yes, sir, DJ. These guys only have to make one scheduled pit stop for today. Fortunately for them, it ended up coming at the very end of the race, so they don't have to pit twice. But you can see a lot of these drivers, opting to pit right now instead of later. They obviously chose to pit together. Very interesting strategy there between Rankin and Philippa to pit together. Obviously, you're not going to gain or lose a whole lot of time compared to Janney just between the space that is, between those two cars. So kind of surprised by, them following each other, and not too surprised, though, by at least one of them following Janney in the pit road. As we right now look at Dino Filippi, makes his way up the hill through the chicane there. Just right now still chasing Janney. That interval right now, 2.5 seconds. Hard to tell if that was just made up on pit road, especially by taking a little bit less fuel, maybe maximizing the pit entry speed between the two drivers. You can see Filippa just trying to warm up his tires as much as he can by weaving that car down the straightaway.
And crucially, the battle that we were keeping our eye on between Justin Ream and James Pierce. Ream was able to pip James Pierce in pit lane. There you can see it. Justin Ream in that 88 machine able to get out and ahead of his rival in the 23. So good work there by the virtual pit crew of the 88. And that is some good heads-up play. Looking at the pit stop time, that was because Ream was about a second shorter in pit lane, so able to save a little bit of fuel and get out and on his way.
Yeah, that's one of the things we didn't talk about too much. Even though you can save fuel right now, it's going to help you pit later. It also means you can take less fuel on pit road to make sure that you're stationary for a smaller amount of time. Really gains you some time back out on track right now as we look at this battle between, this is going to be Jonathan Owlett trying to get by Jeremy Littleton. Obviously, Littleton doesn't want to give away a whole lot of time right now. He's leading the Pro-Am class, so he definitely does not want to pull over to make Owlett's day any better. Of course, Owlett right now trying to hunt down James Pierce ahead of him.
Indeed. Is there we jump back here. Gary Brown trying to close down on one of the brothers Kulaga in front of him. That's the 66 machine of Eric Kulaga. They make their way through that first corner. Looks like a little bit of a tighter exit off of the line for Gary Brown. He'll now get that full efficacy of the draft as they work their way up through the S's. You can see a little bit of that aero wash plaguing Brown. He just ran a little bit wide there at the first part of it, but now he'll just be able to get the power down, focus in behind, see if he can get anything done. The gap coming down from about 0.2 of a second, falling all the more. It's not going to be enough, though, to get Gary Brown by.
Yeah, sometimes, DJ, it's not just the aero wash, it's also the car ahead of you taking that apex and putting his car right there. So you can't exactly see where the apex of the corner is. You can see Kulaga going to run a little bit wide as they go through the carousel. We're going to be able to see if Gary Brown takes advantage of that or not. Going to try to pinch Kulaga down to the inside. Not quite able to do it. Gary Brown's obviously going to have to take the wider way around the track. Not quite able to pass Kulaga right now. Fantastic driving by both these guys, going two right through there. Gary Brown really tries to arc it into the toe of the boot right now. Still way too far back on Kulaga to be able to make a move as they go down into the heel.
And he's got to be very, very careful because that's Travis Kepler that's closing in behind. And as these two continue to battle, Travis may smell a little bit of blood in the water and be able to pull himself up and forward and into this fight. Ooh, that was a bad run there from Kulaga. That's going to be Gary Brown trying down the inside of that third to last corner. Not able to get it done, but he's able to carry a little bit more speed. Let's see what he can do here. Penultimate corner. You can't really make a pass here through this or the last corner, but he can maybe get a better run if he's lucky.
For sure, DJ. It's very hard to make a pass through here because if you go too wide, like any corner, these ones especially, though, very high-speed corners, both of them not quite 90-degree angles, so really try to maximize your speed coming out here. Just behind these guys, though, look, there's their leader, Michael Janney, and right behind him, though, Elvis Rankin. One thing I wanted to make a note of is that Philippa was ended up having to give the spot back to Rankin. Now that lead from first to second place, so 3.4 seconds. That's over 1 second larger than it was last time we looked at it. Made note of of it was about 2 seconds when they come out of the pits. I think Philippa did a little bit better of a job heating up his tires, but he must have made a mistake somewhere on the track to hand another second to lead back to Michael Janey.
Yeah, indeed. So Janny just has to keep focused on getting that car on track and make sure he is okay as they go around. Watching here, John Cooper and his teammate Bruno Alcaraz. Now, they were in a little bit of a battle here with Dan Tenorio, but unfortunately, Alcaraz ran wide, and that scuppered it just a little bit. But these two battling on track right now, trying to close down the best that they can on Tenorio right ahead of them.
Yeah, for sure. These two drivers, teammates, obviously, you know, kind of heel and toe as they go around this joint right now. Not quite sure which one of them is faster than the other. They kind of traded places back and forth throughout the race. I know for sure Alcaraz is a little bit more damaged than his teammate there in Cooper. Not quite sure if they're working together too hard right now. Looks like they're kind of trying hard to pass one another.
Yeah, it is. And sometimes we've seen this, that team orders don't really apply to teammates, that it is every man for himself, and absolutely no problem with that. Part of racing is just getting yourself ahead and going as hard as you can. But right now, Alcaraz looking like he's got a pretty good toe on his teammate of John Cooper. He's going to tuck up behind that number 18 machine, pokes his nose to the outside a little bit there, maybe just trying to see what it is. The one thing that I think Alcaraz is going to have going against him is if you look at that 44 machine, there definitely is a little bit of damage in back. Oh, we've got a side-by-side battle. This is Kulaga and Brown. Brown finally got Kulaga.
Yeah, what a move there on Brown's part, able to take back possession of 6th place in the AM category right now as they head up through the hill. This is going to be Daniel Floria trying to hold off Hunter behind him. Obviously, Hunter going to go to the outside, not quite able to make it done as they go into the bus stop. You can see a lot of the drivers trying to look to the outside, not able to do anything with it. Very, very hard for a driver to kind of make that pass into there. Just to give you another update on the battle between Cooper and Alcaraz right now, still obviously nose to tail as they head down, trying to run down Dan Tenorio just ahead of them. Not quite able to do it right now. Crucially, though, in the battle for the pro lead, overall race win right now, Michael Janney currently 4.1 seconds ahead of Elvis Rankin, and then Dino Filippa another 1.7 seconds back.
Yeah, exactly. But we continue to watch this battle between teammates. The 18 just trying to stalk behind, see if he can get any advantage. They just actually swapped positions. We're hearing in our ear, and indeed they did. Alcaraz going by John Cooper. Yep, that certainly looks like a driver swap to me.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of one driver just begging and pleading with the other to say, hey, I believe I'm faster than you. Can you give me the position? If I run away with it, I'll keep it. If I don't, you can have it back for being nice enough to give it to me. You can see right now we're looking at Travis Kepler's battle between Kepler and then going to be Kulaga just ahead of him. You can see there's our overall leader, Michael Janey, just trying to get around all this lap traffic the best he can. Not obviously, you know, he doesn't want to take too much time. He has 4.2 seconds right now to give up. But of course, you know, these guys obviously being lapped for the first time don't just want to pull over right away.
No, they certainly don't. Oh, we've got another little bit of a side-by-side, and this is for the battle of the AM lead. This is Vada and Metzger duking it out right now. Logan Vada leading Casey Metzger as they go down into the bus stop. You saw the little bit of aggression there out of that number 5, and we've only got 5 minutes to go, so this is for all the marbles for these boys.
Yeah, neither one of them wanted to give away a single inch. Obviously, too wide is not something you want to do as you go up through the chicane after the first couple turns. But I believe these guys are just giving it all they can. You can see trying to look around for all the grip possible, taking different lines. Right now, though, Vada in front.
Yeah, Vada able to hold this out for now, but with the gap only about 0.5 of a second and growing a little bit, now coming back down again. This is certainly a fierce battle that I think will continue to rage on here in these closing stages.
Yeah, you can see Travis trying to eke out as much as he can right here. He's the guy we're going to watch trying to hunt down Kulaga just in front of him. Obviously, both these drivers have a lot of speed. I really expected both of them to be farther up through the field, but such an incredibly difficult track to pass on, especially once the field gets really spread out. It's kind of hard to gauge your speed against the drivers in front and behind. Currently, though, to give you an update on each class's leader, it's going to be Janey for Pro. Pro-Am is Littleton. In the AM category, it's a battle we're watching right now between Vada and Metzger. Right now, they're trying to run through all the lap traffic they can as patiently as they can, but, you know, you do want to make sure you get through them without losing any time.
Well, and what makes this interesting, whoa, that's a late move there for Logan Vada, just trying to gain any advantage that he can at this point. As I've got my eye here on the leaders, seeing I think we're about 2, maybe 3 laps to go. We'll have to figure it out as they come to the line. That's Michael Janney right there, who continues to the lead now to the tune of about 5 seconds over Elvis Rankin.
Yeah, he's been pulling away ever since they made their pit stop. I was kind of curious whether or not Dino Filippa could do anything with that lead once he finally got past Elvis Rankin. That was the battle we saw for about the first half of this race. But ever since the pit stop, Michael Janney's just been pulling away to the tune of about, around, I want to say, around a half a second per lap.
Yeah, he's been putting in some absolute flyers. Oh, we're side by side there. This is Kepler trying to hold off the 66 of Eric Kulaga. Kulaga getting very, very aggressive through the bus stop. Is he going to have a look here through the carousel? He's going to certainly think about it, but that aero wash carries him a little bit wide, tries to carry the momentum, but I think he's got to check himself up, and that's going to lose him a couple of tenths.
Yeah, he just went through the center part of the carousel a little bit faster than he should have. Right now we're going to look at Bruno Alcaraz. Still, he was one of the teammates of John Cooper, made that position swap a couple laps ago and not working out too well for him. Wow, both the drivers actually going to follow each other off. So 2 of the Turnbourne moto cars just kind of locking on the brakes, sliding head first into the wall there. It looks like Travis Kepler, I wonder if he might have made a mistake. He's going very slow right now, obviously getting passed by, we want to say that's either Ream or Outlet there.
It looked like there may have been a little bit of damage. Yep, in that exact same spot. Just picked up some damage to the right side and hard contact there on the right front of that machine. And there you can see that car not looking the best out here today.
Yeah, definitely not, DJ. You hate to see that for a competitor, especially the kind of laps he was putting in right now. As we'll go to look at the battle between Martinez and Rasmussen right now. This is for 6 in the Pro-Am category as they head up the hill here. This is one place you definitely just want to kind of foul the guy ahead of you. We saw Rasmussen obviously fell victim to a mistake of his own earlier, just trying to claw back all the points he possibly can. Crucial points in this league because it is so hard to pass. And obviously, you're kind of lined up based on points for the next race.
Exactly, and also crucially, Michael Janney has crossed over to the start-finish line to take the white flag. So drivers out here know that that has happened. There is your overall leader, Michael Janney. He continues to lead to the tune of about 5.5 seconds over Elvis Rankin. Dino Filippa behind them. Oh, and of course, right as we cut away, Andrew Rasmussen able to get the move over Steven Martinez.
Yeah, what a fantastic run here from Michael Janney. We're going to get a replay of this. Andrew Rasmussen just barely able to dive to the inside of Martinez there, able to cut back to the outside, wheel his car to the outside of the track. Then these drivers are going to go side by side into the toe of the boot.
Indeed they were, but here is your leader. Here is the man of the hour. This is Michael Janney piloting his way out of the toe for the last time and going down into the heel. He has got smooth sailing. Nobody's in front of him. The closest car is Errol Yerksoy, who is about 4.5 seconds ahead. As we continue to watch him pilot his way now out of the boot. Only 2 corners to go for your leader, Michael Janney. He has dominated this race. He has not let up the lead from the minute that he took it over. This number 2 machine will take a well-deserved victory here in round 3 at Watkins Glen. Round 4 at Watkins Glen. There's the celebratory jink across the line, and Michael Janney will take the victory. Coming in second, it is Elvis Rankin. Behind him, Dino Filippa. There you can see him coming out of the final corner. Justin Ream will finish in 4th behind him.
Yeah, what a fantastic race right now for him. Obviously, Michael Janney, what a masterclass of a performance. Obviously, Elvis Rankin coming home P2. You can see one driver is going to be James Pierce getting a little bit sideways coming out of the last corner there. Kind of reminiscent of when the NASCAR cars came through here and oil was spilled there. Right now, we're going to look at Jeremy Littleton currently leading in the Pro-Am category, just kind of going through there. Littleton, Garfias, Dan Tenorio. Obviously, what a huge spread between all these guys. I don't think a whole lot of positions are going to be changed just based on how spread apart these drivers are right now. Fantastic run, though, for Littleton. Obviously started well up near the front, and what a fantastic paint scheme, too, to kind of see take the victory here tonight.
Always a favorite of mine, those Gulf colors. And as you said, Jeremy Littleton will take the victory in Pro-Am. Josh Garfias, pretty much the closest battle between leaders that we had out there. This is Logan Vada there, though, as he pilots his way out of the boot for the last time. He will be your presumptive winner in that amateur class, the number 97 machine. Only one more corner to go here. Takes the car out of that final corner, and Logan Vada now comes to the line. The celebratory weave. Logan Vada takes victory in the amateur category. Behind him, that will be Casey Metzger. Behind him, it is Dan Hunter rounding out your amateur podium.
Yeah, fantastic racing here today. Watkins Glen always delivered. What a fantastic job this rescan did of kind of preserving the essence of the Watkins Glen that was here before. We're going to go through the race results right here for you in the pro category. Like we said, Michael Janey bringing home the victory, followed by Elvis Rankin, Dino Filippa, Justin Raymond fourth with James Pearson fifth. Jonathan Owlett comes home sixth with John Bodefer in seventh, and Harry Wills in eighth.
In that Pro-Am category, it was Jeremy Littleton, followed by Jos Garfias, with Daniel Tenorio rounding out your podium. Bruno Alcaraz was in fourth, followed by John Cooper in fifth, with Andrew Rasmussen in sixth and Chris Long seventh. Behind them, it was Steven Martinez, Dean Timms, and Jay Steffi. Steffi, obviously, DNFing out there, and Taylor Lane came home in P11.
As we head down to look at your AM category standings, Logan Vada takes home the victory in his Team Prima Porsche, followed by Casey Metzger. Don Hunter rounds out your podium. Errol Yuriksoy comes home fourth with Daniel Floria in fifth. Gary Brown comes home sixth, followed by Eric Kulaga and Travis Kepler in eighth. Michael Kulaga and Jason Bridges round out your top 10, followed by Andrew Hewitt, Drew Neubauer in 12th, and Andrew Houston rounds out your 13-car field.
Well, an absolutely stellar race from Virtual Watkins Glen, and this was round 4 of the Race Anywhere Porsche Cup Series, powered by Race Anywhere, Sim Racing 3D, and Go for the Gap. Austin, waiting here a couple of seconds to see if we have any of our drivers popping up for an interview here today. We take a look at that rolling start. This was an absolutely incredible run for these guys, and you said it. This rescan of Watkins Glen really proving its worth. Tricky to pass, but if you master this track, it is well worth it, and a good time to see cars out on here.
Yeah, fantastic run from Michael Janey. Definitely one of the drivers I want to talk to. He put on an absolute masterclass of a run here tonight. Obviously, once he took the lead, he never really gave up any lead, and at the end, he kind of stretched it out, really doubling it ever since the pit stop. And the pit stop was taken right around the 32-minute mark, so not a whole lot of room to go ahead and double your lead.
No, there certainly wasn't. And obviously, just solid racing up and down the field, these three classes, and the way that the Race Anywhere Porsche Cup Series has put them together always makes for some interesting antics out on track. And I don't mean antics in a bad way. It's always just good to see the varying skill levels of drivers and how each and every one of them choose to attack these corners. It always presents some amazing action.
Exactly, DJ. What a fantastic run here tonight. Not just in the pro category, even the pro am and the am category. Obviously, in the pro am category, we didn't see a whole lot of battling for the lead at the end, but there were still fantastic battles up and down through that entire field, and especially in the am category, the largest category we have here, and there were at least 3 to 5 different battles going on throughout the entire race, and I think all of those saw positions being swapped back and forth between Philippa and Rankin. We had Cooper, Rasmussen, Garfias, fantastic battles all the way up and down through the fields. We see the slow-mo right here, as you can see Michael Janey, what a fantastic run for these guys, and wait for them. We didn't see a whole lot of accidents this week either, like we'd seen a couple previous weeks, and this is not a track where it's easy to go 2 and 3 wide the entire race.
No, it's not, but these drivers certainly made it look easy out here. I can tell you that. Well, Austin, I'm not seeing anybody show up for us here to talk to, so I think that's about going to wrap us up here, as we would like to say thank you on behalf of the Race Anywhere Porsche Cup Series. We will see you next week. My name is DJ Clark, and on behalf of my partner here in the booth, Austin Belkey, and Steve Proudley, who's been pushing buttons behind the scenes, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.